What up, everybody? It's Double G for the Fight Game Podcast. John LaRocca and I here live on YouTube Thursday night, September 19th. We don't have like a giant show to recap or multiple shows to recap pay-per-view wise. So
Isn't that just damn nice?
but there's still so much content to, if you wanted to, there's so much stuff that you could still watch and catch up on. And I don't know, it felt weird. Well, I did have to watch and cover the UFC show last weekend, so that was there. And the Canelo fight was also that I didn't get to watch that, but so there's always stuff. And there's another boxing fight this weekend, Anthony Joshua. So just from the pro wrestling side, we actually did have a break.
I heard people around the water cooler talking about the Canelo fight, though. That was interesting. I haven't heard that in a long time. So, Mexican Independence Day. So I think it's kind of, and it was like one of my coworkers is like totally into the storyline where they try to sell whatever they try to do, some kind of angle. They did some kind of angle talking trash. He was all in. Canelo got him. Yeah, I'm like, okay, all right, good. The old stuff still works.
They had the Canelo fight, and then there was the UFC show in the same market, and one of them did $22 million gate, and the other one did like a $17 million gate. It's insanity. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Two quick things before we actually get this show started. We recorded a podcast the other night for our Popcorn and Pile Drivers wrestling movie review podcast, and we reviewed the 1974 The Wrestler with Vern Gagne and Ed Asner. And so that's up. That is out there. If you want to watch, you just go to the Fight Game Media YouTube channel, or you can go to fightgamemedia.com and you can see the audio feed. And then last night I did observe this with my buddy Draven, and we talked about August of 1989. Now, do you remember SummerSlam, the very second SummerSlam, August of 1989?
Oh yes, very much so.
Do you remember what you thought about that show or anything, any details?
I mean, back then everything was just great. I didn't really, I just loved watching wrestling. I remember coming home from my cousin's house in Chico, California. I know my buddy Billy was watching it and taping it, and I was like praying that we can just get home in time, where I can just run over get my bike and ride over and watch it. But I had to watch the tape the next day. I got it after school.
People will never know that struggle, right?
Yeah.
They'll never know the struggle. I was telling my buddy Draven last night that there's a Saturday night's main event in 1989, I think, that we're coming up on. And I was, I think the November timeframe sounds right, but I was, for some reason, like really tired. And so what I did is I took a nap, and I was like, okay, I'm going to set my alarm for 11:30 p.m. to wake up and watch this show. And then I must have set the thing wrong. I didn't wake up. I slept all the way through the night, and I woke up the next morning just like, what the hell? I was so mad because I missed Saturday night's main event.
I remember, I think it was Prime Time. It was the first Brainbusters vs. Demolition match on Saturday night's main event. And I missed it. And I'm like, this will never happen again. So literally every TV guide, I went to Saturdays and I just double checked and make sure to catch Saturdays. I did that for years, just making sure. I didn't really realize it was like quarterly or something like that.
Yeah.
So
and we would have to check the TV guide to see if it was going to be on, because you can kind of figure it out. Like, you're like, okay, the last Saturday night's main event was like a month ago. We probably have like another month and a half, 2 months before we get another one. But still, I was flipping every time we'd get the newspaper on Sunday. I'm flipping to Saturday night just to double check and make sure that there's no Saturday night's main event, and that that it was just Saturday Night Live. But that's kind of how we did it back in the day.
Cool. That SummerSlam, I will say, for people who haven't seen it, I don't know how many people out here listening haven't seen it, but if you haven't, maybe a younger viewer of wrestling, and you heard about Macho Man Randy Savage, I'm sure people talk about Savage versus Steamboat, Savage Hogan matches. But watch this match because it for his team, because he teams with Zeus, Tiny Lister, the actor, versus Hulk Hogan, Bruce Beefcake, and he is a one-man show
Yep.
in that match. Not only flying all around for the baby faces, but also coaching and Zeus in there where he needs to be, positioning when it's time to do what he needs to do. I think it was one of the greatest performances of Macho Man's career. That no one really talks about it, so I hope you guys talked about it when you were reviewing.
We did. We also shouted out Sherry because Sherry was
yes.
doing a lot of work in that match too. Elizabeth was on the other side, but Elizabeth is not a wrestler. She's just there to kind of play the damsel in distress. Though she did get a little physical in that match, and the cameraman missed it when she flipped Sherry over the top rope. But yeah, the Macho Man was just on fire, and I made the joke. I was like, I mean, the guy's wrestling like he was on cocaine or something. He was just going like so hard.
Did you get the feels when they announced the upcoming Saturday's Main Event with the commercial with Obsession, the song Obsession, and kind of like the retro? That was pretty cool. I hope they kind of you know how they used to do the Raw, was it Raw flashback or Raw rewind or whatever they called it back in the day? They do like once a year.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if they did a nostalgia feel for Saturday's Main Event every, quarterly or something like that.
Who could you actually bring back though?
I heard
isn't
Ventura is coming
well,
back.
okay, so I heard Jesse. I don't want Jesse to be the color commentator. He should be there for the main event, and he should
one
be
match.
the third guy. People think that he's going to be like the second guy in the booth. I'm like, this dude has no idea what's going on. You do not want him to be the Corey Graves of the announce team.
He should get one match on the first show. You should do a big entrance, a big celebration, all that stuff, right? And maybe not call them, say, Roman Reigns versus, Solo Sikoa or something like that. But I mean, he should call kind of like the middle feud match, and then kind of see how he does. If he does well, maybe give him another chance, maybe a couple more matches next show.
I got the feels for the song. The problem with it is they brought it back 20 years ago. And it wasn't the same. And it's because they had Raw and they had SmackDown, and those were their important shows. And Saturday Night's Main Event was just not important. So I think in order for this one, it is on NBC in prime time on a Saturday night, which is both good and bad. It's only bad because people are not going to give you a chance on a Saturday night when they have things to do and when there's, sports going on or whatever. Unless it's an important show. So it has to be an important show right out of the gate. Like I would almost say you should tank Raw and SmackDown for that week and like put the important stuff that was going to be on those shows and make sure it's on Saturday Night's Main Event.
I think they will. I think they have to, especially this first one. You have to come out guns blazing. But I hope they don't just do that for the first show and kind of veer off, which they, a lot of companies do that. So I hope they kind of keep it special. Because how many special? They said only 4 a year, right?
Yeah, they're quarterly.
So yeah, so for a year they could do that. They can definitely plan it around making sure some big matches peak for those shows.
My favorite F4W recapper on the website, Ryan Howard, says, "Bring back Sean Mooney for a one-off."
That's a good one. I do like Sean Mooney. Maybe he can handle the back, the interview area or something. They probably won't, but I think Ventura will be the guy. I think he'll be the one that's synonymous with Saturday's Main Event. So I think he'll be the guy. I don't think they'll go too much with. I think they'll do the song and they'll do Jesse for sure.
Yeah, and they're going back to the place where they ran the first one. Do you remember the main event of the very first Saturday Night Main Event?
Is it Hogan and Funk?
No, that would be
second one, right?
That might be the second one.
Orton? Yeah, Orton. Okay,
it was Orton because it was only like 6 weeks after the very first WrestleMania.
Okay. I know Funk and Hogan is like one of the best matches in Saturday's Main Event history. I remember people love that match, but okay, yeah, I want that. I want retro graphics too.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I want that, and I want the pink drop down curtain for interview area in the back.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
The also SummerSlam '89, infamous for Mean Gene yelling a curse word live because something dropped behind him. But they pulled it out of the Peacock version, though. There's no Mean Gene screaming "What the f" on the Peacock version of SummerSlam '89.
I told my buddy not to spoil anything when he gave me the tape, but he had to spoil one thing. He's like, Roddy Piper, Moon, Rick Rude. I'm like, I don't know if I'm looking forward to seeing his butt, but thank God it was off, not the camera side.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's get to our thumbs up and thumbs down. I will go first with it, but let's play our sound edit here.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I wanted to go first because really there's one person who is deserving of it because of the business of pro wrestling. And earlier this week, John Orand had a piece about AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery coming or very near to an agreement on 170 million. And that was ballpark. He did not say that was the number, but that's kind of what we've been hearing. And I mean, it's just kudos to Tony Khan, kudos to AEW. 3-year deal, which we didn't know, with a possible option for a 4th year. So it's not a 5-year deal like the ones that WWE has been signing. But it's everything, even though the popularity of the shows have gone down, it's still meaningful content for Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers lost the NBA. They're putting on the Savannah Bananas semi-pro baseball team on some shows. Like they're hurting for content.
Wow.
So, AW, I think, could be very valuable for them. I do think that Tony Khan is going to have to figure out how to make some of these other shows important again, though. Like, that has to be somewhat in the agreement for WBD. Like, dude, you can't give us Rampage that you've been giving us. Like, when this deal hits, man, you need to start paying a little bit more attention to the booking on these shows. So it's just positive for the business, positive for everybody. Now, my worry is that Tony gets the money and he could become a profitable company, but he's like, nope, I'm just going to spend more on talent now.
I wonder the number I'm curious about, which we'll never know this, is how much he's put in so far, and will he break even or not? I don't think he break even, but how much does he need to make up his money he's already spent? It's had some big money purchases. I'm talking about just on music alone. Not enough talent, let alone talent. So
yeah, he has spent a lot of money, but he owns. What if you believe that Warner Brothers owns some of it? He owns the largest majority, has all the voting shares. So even if he has put in more than he has made himself, he still made money on the company based on what it is currently worth today. So there is equity there for him. But yeah, this is what we've been waiting for, and it sounds like there may be a couple of other deals still with irons in the fire. Now there's the pay-per-view thing. Whether or not they're going to Max for pay-per-view, we've heard that. Some people believe that it is already baked into the current deal. Some people believe that it is not. And then there's this idea of them going to another network to have a show on another network. Great to get the money. I also worry a little bit about being stretched thin and what kind of program that is going to be. But it looks like WBD considers them really good partners, and they made out like bandits. So good on them, and they are my thumbs up.
Is Rampage on the cutting block though? Like they're not going to have Rampage. It's just going to be Dynamite Collision for the WBD side, and possibly that Shockwave show for FS1 if that's the deal that goes through.
I haven't heard anything definitive. I have heard the rumor that Rampage could be in trouble, though. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Which fine by me. Like,
Yeah, of course. I barely watch that show.
I think that brand is also very damaged because of what has happened. So if you let's say, that you have a new show on Fox Sports, and would you rather just drag Rampage over there, or would you rather create a new name? I'd just rather create a new name.
Yeah,
Rampage brand is damaged.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's why I like the idea of the Shockwave. But put your best foot forward for that show, not as well. I mean, we saw what happened to Rampage and even Collision. Collision. I talked about on our Popcorn and Pile Grabber show, like I watched Collision and I was like, this is like giving people for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So they got to step up that as well.
Yeah, I watch Collision sparingly. The last time I watched it was the day before All Out when they ran that 3-hour block on a Friday night. I was like, okay, this is kind of like a go home to the go home, show kind of thing. And they're promising this all-star tag team. And I was just like, it was a wrestling show. Like there was nothing great in it that made you go like, wow, this is what I'm missing every week. And then I didn't even think the hype for the pay-per-view was all that good. It was like, oh,
No.
I just get to watch Jack Perry, who is wrestling for the world title, run away in this 8-man tag, and he's just leaving when he probably should have been the person who got the win. Nobody believes he can beat Bryan Danielson. So, but nope, that didn't happen. But yeah, so who was your thumbs up?
My thumbs up is Hammerstone, who just made a couple appearances on NXT. He's under contract at TNA, but Hammerstone's a guy I know very well. I booked him early on in his career for Premiere. A lot like Jeff Cobb, Jacob Fatu, JR Kratos. A joy to work with. I really like that guy a lot and his talent. And he's improved so much since I even first booked him in Premiere. I remember for APW, we booked him against Jacob Fatu. And Jacob's great, sensation. He's just an amazing athlete. But I was really impressed with Hammerstone's work in that match. Like as the leading the match as a heel, I thought he was fantastic. And I'm just happy because like I felt like he should be in WWE, but because of the previous regime and all that, he went to MLW, did that for a very long time, and then I'm shocked that once his MLW deal came up, I thought for sure he was going to AEW because that group with him and MJF and Richard Holiday was fantastic in MLW. That was a highlight of MLW. They had such a great chemistry. I wanted them to bring that back. To bring that into AEW because I thought that would have been a great deal with MJF and you could have done some great stuff off that, but it didn't happen. That's when I questioned Tony Khan's judgment of talent when you let a guy like Hammerstone go to TNA before he comes to AEW. It's just mind-boggling. But he had a good showing against Obafemi. They did more of an angle with his match with Tony D'Angelo this week. But they didn't beat him, which is a good sign.
We'll talk about that angle here in a second.
Yeah, I know. I'm not a fan of the angle itself. But they didn't beat him, which is a good sign. And I think he's going to be one of those TNA people that kind of end up going to WWE sooner and later. And I'm super happy for him because, like I said, great guy to work with, a true professional,
How
not
old
a
is
headache. He must be in his 30s, I believe. But, he's not just a muscled up, dude, like he wants to prove to get better. He wanted to prove to get better. He wants to, be the best businessman as a professional wrestler he can, he took some chances. He changed his look up, a couple of times, just, so I really like Hammerstone. So I'm excited that he's getting this opportunity.
All right. I have a thumbs down. I have a, we're going to count backwards from 3 to 1 because I had a couple things that I wanted to talk about. And then there's one clear thumbs down for me, who is actually one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Counting backwards, Tony Khan is my thumbs up. He could have also very much been my thumbs down because they had a show. Now, I did not watch the show. I saw some clips and it was cringeworthy to me. But they had him on NFL Films, and they did like a 30-minute special on the stupid neck brace thing. And, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. Oh, great for AEW, though the NFL channel that actually wasn't. It was on. I don't even know what channel it was on, but it was probably a low-rated NFL recap show or something. But the fact that he was on the show with the neck brace thing is cringeworthy in of itself. But some people could have fun with it. Some people go, oh, they're talking about wrestling as if wrestling's real. Ha, 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 or whatever, The problem that I had is we just watched last week, there was a Thursday night game, and the Miami Dolphins quarterback had yet another concussion that may end his career. We don't know. It's still kind of up in the air. Like, he's been concussed so often. That sport is so brutal with injuries. To do like this faux neck injury thing from a pro wrestling angle on an NFL show, I just think it's in bad taste. And Tony's kayfabing and pretending it's real, and some people are in on the joke and some people are not. And I said when I first saw him on television in that thing, I said some people are in on the joke and some people believe like it's a joke. And that's what I hate about it, is that there are legitimate sports fans who believe that stuff like that is just a joke and it's goofy. So on one hand, yeah, maybe he got some people to Google what AEW is, but on the other hand, he probably got some real life NFL players who, are probably walking with a limp and sore all day, just shaking their head, going like, dude, you just can't like make fun of this stuff. Like this is real, this is real. So that's 3. If we didn't have these other 2, that would have been my thumbs down. You mentioned this Tony D'Angelo storyline. They flat out copyright infringed on Rocky 3 with some of these lines.
Yes.
I was so surprised at how line by line these promos took from scenes of that movie. And somebody on Twitter put them together to show you how line by line they did these lines. And if I'm Sylvester Stallone, I'm calling up old HBK and going like, dude, I better get a writing credit or a producing credit on this episode, because this is like copyright infringement. It was so much.
I guess it's a parody, right? So they couldn't sue over that, right? Technically,
I think you could, if you I mean, maybe if it's a parody, then it's kind of off limits. But was it a parody? It's a storyline. Like he's
no, they're not trying to be a parody, but the way a lot of these NXT promos are delivered, it almost sounds like a parody.
Because they're not great actors.
We talked about this in nausea.
Yeah.
Like the promos in NXT, I can't stand. The wrestling I don't mind, but the promos is just that makes me embarrassed sometimes to be a wrestling fan watching this stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm with you though. Well, I'll save this one because I do have some thoughts on NXT as they're building towards these CW shows. But that was number 2. Number 1 has got to be Mick Foley to me, because Mick Foley made some comments about Vince, and he's trying.
I didn't hear about this.
Yeah, he's trying to. It had his sentiment was that his memories are his memories. And he does not want to throw Vince under the bus until there's more information. And so, for one, the reason why that's people have said that, right? The problem with that statement for Mick Foley is Mick Foley has worked with some folks on the Reign campaign, right? And that has to do with sexual trauma, rape, and all of that. And so if his memories sort of cannot be judged based on what he thinks of Vince McMahon, the people who he has worked with, which was really great work, them trying to get over their traumas are really just memories of something bad that happened. So I don't know why he made that comment about his memories, knowing that he's done this really great work with people who have these really traumatic experience. So I just found that in bad taste, and maybe it's just he just used the wrong words or whatever. But there's too much information out there, and Mick is too thoughtful of a human being. Like, he was one of those guys, we're talking Attitude Era and through the early 2000s. When he wrote that book, and I read that book, I was like, wow, this dude is so well-rounded. He's not just like a pro wrestling guy on television. Like, he's got a great story. And then he started writing more books. He even wrote a couple of fictional books, which I thought were good. And so you kind of get to know him through his writing, even more so than through his wrestling. And I remember meeting him at Comic-Con. he had like I think he was selling a comic book, and so he was signing the comic books. And I forget the conversation we had, some wrestling conversation maybe about Paul Heyman. I made a joke about something that he would have remembered from something that he wrote. There, I traded Twitter conversations with him because I was like doing some writing, and I kind of used an influence that, and I just told him. And then we got to see him do his stand-up routine in San Francisco. I also saw him again in San Jose. And then I got to interview the guy, and it wasn't on the greatest terms because his trainer had passed away, Dominic DiNucci. And so Dave and I got to talk to him. And, the story of that interview was that his daughter had to help him figure out how to had to set up Skype so that I could call into his Skype. So I actually called into her phone rather than his phone because he couldn't figure out how to do it. But he was a delight. I was just like, this is great. Like, this dude who I've been reading and, just following for so long. This is really cool. And so it does pain me to kind of like bring this up, but at the same time, we do this show. We don't do this show as like people with jerseys on, right? We're not doing it with our WWE jersey, rah WWE, our AEW. Oh, my AEW title belt. I'm carrying. No, we do this as sort of a way to discuss the business in an unbiased way. So for me to actually talk negatively about Mick is pretty painful. But yeah, I just thought his comments and maybe what was reported or what was aggregated wasn't the entire thing that he said, but I think there was enough in his statements to where I was like, nah, you need to take that one back, or you need to just need to do more research on the scenario, because I think there's enough out there for you to not have made those kind of comments.
Yeah. Well,
all right. What about you for thumbs down?
Thumbs down was from this past Dynamite. The John Moxley or Blackpool Combat Club beat down of Private Party
or Private Party.
Yeah, poor Private Party. I don't know if it was heat getting, because one, beating up guys like that who are not over, you're not gonna get much heat or even sympathy on these guys. Two, they did this. Moxley broke one of the guys, I think it was Mark Quinn's hand, I believe, with the hammer, and there was no help. No one came out to save these guys. I'm talking about not. I know Darby came out later, but Darby literally came out after the hammer was used on the hand. Like, it's not like Moxley got the hammer and quickly did it. He held it up, swung it around, and cut a promo before he did it. So it just made it makes your bay faces look like, not good guys if they don't come out to help, and again, but no one came out to help. No officials trying to stop it. It didn't feel chaotic. It was just a beatdown. And then later on that same show, you have Hangman Page and Jeff Jarrett shoving and jaw-jacking each other, and a swarm of officials, referees, security, all coming out trying to stop him. So I was not a fan of that. And plus, I thought about it, but I didn't want to really go there with it. But people on Twitter have taken to this, is that because John Moxley, quoted that movie Romper Stomper, which is he was about a neo-Nazi group or guys, and they are just beating down these African American wrestlers. It was a bad visual. I thought about it, but I thought, okay, I'm not gonna go there. I don't know if I want to go there. But then I started seeing a lot more people jumping on. I don't know if they're jumping on to be vile or try to find something. But it was in the back of my mind, like, okay, what's this angle? What's
the worst thing about it to me? Cassidy's the one who jumped Mox.
And he no-sold him, right? Just bounced off him. Is that what? Yeah.
He jumped him, very unlike a baby face.
Yeah.
And Moxley just beat the hell out of him. And so the other thing about it is, you mentioned the hammer thing. The hammer spot's not going to work. You just suffocated a man at a pay-per-view, and then the match after that, these guys killed each other for 30 minutes and stuck a syringe in the other guy's mouth. So the shock value of hammering a guy in the hand it doesn't have any effect. It
Not
is
only
it's
shock
nothing.
value, but how can you get heat on taking a hammer and breaking someone's hand when you suffocated a guy and did not get arrested? Right?
Yes.
Right? Like, no, there's no consequences for John Moxley's been coming out on the show, cutting promos, doing what he's doing. He hasn't been, suspended or fined, or you never hear anything like that. He just, so I don't even know what's going on. I know it's still playing out this whole storyline with John Moxley and what he's doing. And we'll see what happens when we finally get some kind of, idea where it's going. But I just didn't like this whole thing from start to finish. And then later on, like I said, when you go to all you see is Hangman Page and Jeff Jarrett shoving each other, and the whole locker room empties almost.
I almost thought the same thing during the Punk segment when Roxanne wanted to attack Julia and Punk stopped it, but then in the main event segment he's like, "Oh, you guys can fight." I was like, why couldn't the girls fight, brother?
Yeah. I got some comments about that, but we definitely got.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to NXT. So just a couple of comments from the people watching. Huffman mentioned Foley. He said that he's also a Foley fan, but he disagrees with Mick in politics wise and finds him to be a hypocrite. I don't find Mick to be a hypocrite. I just am so used to him putting thought behind what he says, but for some reason, and this is not just Mick, and I'm not excusing him, by the way, by saying this, when it comes to Vince McMahon, a lot of these guys just cannot be honest or say what they think. And I wonder if it's because if they do, then it damages their past as a wrestler. Like if Vince is really this guy and you overlooked it the entire time, then your whole career was kind of a lie by a con man. And so that's an issue. And I can see why people would find that to be a little hypocritical, but it's a Vince thing. Well, what's interesting is JR also came out and he said that he wasn't interviewed for the Vince documentary, and he believes it's because he knows where all the bodies are buried. And that I was like, okay, well, that says that you also saw a lot of shit, is what it says.
Yeah.
And those are the JR is he's probably feeling like he's kind of near the end of the run, so he maybe he doesn't care what he's saying in that sense. But that's the part that could damage things, is if there are people who did things or saw things that may come out in this lawsuit, then that opens up another can of worms. And that's the stuff that I think could hurt the business, that people think that won't hurt the business. And I'm like, there's this wild card of stuff that, people, if they were involved or if they'd seen these things. So that is something that I'm a little worried about. But Andreev's also said that he's a fan. And he named his rabbit Otto. Shout out to Otto the rabbit. At first, I thought it said Otis, and I was like, "Oh, he named the rabbit after a very entertaining wrestler." No, he named it Otto.
Maybe Otto Wands from
maybe Otto Wands. Okay, so thumbs up, thumbs down. Took a little bit longer, but I had those three things to kind of get off my chest. That those are the things that we talk about on this show. But now we can go to our top 5 of the stuff that we thought was important this week.
Drums, please.
All right, so number 1 here, and this is I don't know if this is important or it's just fun for me, but on SmackDown, the very first SmackDown on USA Network, or they've been on USA before, but now they're back. There was a really good cage match with Cody and Lowe. I thought they did a really good job. Of course, the level of detail and the beating the crap out of each other, like, you can't really compare the two cage matches. I would prefer the Cody and Solo version over All Out version, but I'm probably in the minority when it comes to the AEW fan base when I say that. But the angle coming out of that cage match is what we thought, what we were looking to see if they were going to do. What we were maybe even hoping for was the Roman and Cody team coming out of this.
Yeah.
They did play the show long angle. Cody was the one who was like, I'm out. I don't want to deal with these guys anymore. That's Roman's problem. I got my own stuff. And then Roman was like ready to sign the contract for this tag team match against Jacob and Solo. And then finally at the end, when they all jumped Roman, Cody's like, give me the dang pin, brother, and signs the thing. And so now the new mega powers is what I've been calling them. They did a handshake, right? Like, they're gonna tag. Maybe they don't tag team very long. Maybe they somehow win the tag titles from who has them? The
Tongaloa and Tama Tonga.
Yeah, maybe they win the tag titles somehow. So that will create some interest in this Roman thing. It is a different thing because like I thought Roman was kind of walking on a treadmill a little bit with what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they've beat Solo to death. That I'm not even sure if people want to see Roman and Solo. I'm not sure. But this is a new wrinkle, and I love this tag team match for Bad Blood.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got a lot of bad memories from bad booking where I can like, are they going to turn on Cody and is this going to swerve everyone? I don't think so, but it's back to my mind. But I'm really looking for his tag match. It's a pretty huge match, really for a lot of people call it a B show pay-per-view, but shit, that's a mega match for a big pay-per-view. That's
they can't. I don't think
SummerSlam match, my friend.
They can't do that B level pay-per-view this time because they're back in the US. Like they can't go to this brand new market who is starved for a WWE show and is just gonna sing the entire night.
I don't think those shows were weak about either though, but I thought and it's a big
Okay. Well, here's a question for you then. Okay. Bash in Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
What we saw at Bash in Berlin, would you have paid $500 to see that show live?
First of all, I'm never paying $500 to watch a wrestling show.
Okay.
All right, let's just be honest here. Come on. I'm just saying as a viewer at home though, sitting down, it feels big. It felt like I wasn't like cheated or anything. I didn't think that.
It felt like a 2.5 hour really solid wrestling shows.
You know what people are paying now for concerts and shit? Like
I know, it's crazy.
My coworker goes to those Taylor Swift shows. She's flying out and plus paying X amount of like hundreds of dollars or even more, like 500 plus just to see that girl.
Okay, have you looked at, because on Friday SmackDown is in Sacramento, not that far from us if we really wanted to go.
Not on a Friday.
It's hard on a Friday. If it was in San Jose, I would go, but not.
Definitely.
I can't make that trek out to Sacramento. My buddy who was looking for, because he wanted to see if Cody and Roman were going to be on the show before he even thought about buying tickets, and I think they are. He said to get to the first level when he looked yesterday was $300.
Whew.
And I was like, oh my God.
My God.
Can you even imagine? Back in the day, I'm going to say SummerSlam 2001. So this was at San Jose Arena. I had a floor seat, maybe like 6th row or something. And I think I paid $125, something like that. So the times have changed.
Yeah. But new Mega Powers, it's a very cool thing. I wonder how the match is going to go. I kind of see the heels going up. I kind of think they have to in this match.
Yeah, I think so too.
Getting into the War Games. So Cody, Roman, I'm guessing Jey Uso, maybe Sami Zayn. They could pull, maybe, I don't know what's going on with Jimmy Uso, but.
I know what is going on with Jimmy Uso.
I have no idea what's going on with that.
Is this a story? I hope it's a storyline.
I hope so, but if not, all the best. But so I think the heels definitely have to come up. Jacob Fatu is the guy that probably has to pin either Roman or Cody to set up a future match between both those guys. Solo could get the pin though, with the help of Jacob Fatu, because that's
Jacob wins the match. Solo forces him off so that he can cover
and gets the pin. Yeah, and I don't think pinning Roman Reigns at this point will really hurt him at all, even though it's his first match back. I don't think so.
I think they would pin Cody. I think pinning Cody opens up more stuff down the line.
Well, pinning Cody, Solo pins Cody, right? Jacob helps him. Solo pins Cody. We just seen Cody beat him a couple times already, right? I think it's Solo and Roman is still a big match because they haven't done it yet, right? And Solo, even though he's lost a couple times to Cody, he goes out there and people are chatting that OTC and we want Roman at him, so they're gonna go crazy for that match.
I don't know. Roman hadn't lost in like 5 years. Is he gonna lose twice in the same year?
You know what? I think it's okay. He can do the job. I don't think it's gonna hurt him. You know what? Saturday's main event, December. You have War Games. You could see Roman versus Solo as that main event on that show, and a Cody match.
I would like to see a storyline within the storyline where, obviously, on this show, Cody kind of came to Roman's rescue a little bit to agree to tag team.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see where Cody needs Roman's help, and then Roman agrees, but he's like, kind of the Rocky 3 ending, going back to Rocky. When this is all said and done,
yeah,
I'm getting my rematch. And then they agree to that. And I don't know when you do that, because that's a giant match to do.
Rumble. I think Rumble.
But I would like to see that, because I don't like us. I don't like it when that is kind of out there and everyone's like, oh, weren't they just feuding forever and now they're buddies? Like, they need to remind us that they don't like each other and that they are businessmen still in that. Yeah. So I think that'd be good. Andreves again. Yes, we like doing these live shows. It's just difficult because we for John has young children, and I'm doing these shows when my wife goes to bed. She has to get up pretty early, so it's just because we're on the West Coast as well. It's really hard to do it like in the prime time of when you'd want to do it, but this works for us. And there are people who are up late, and there are people internationally who may be up and needing some content, so hopefully we provide that as well. All right, number 2. Actually, you know what? We'll keep this also as number 1 because it's related to the same Bad Blood pay-per-view. What did you think of CM Punk's promo on Monday night?
That was tremendous. That was a big time money promo. This guy must win promo of the year. If he doesn't win it, I think it's a pretty bad look on the voters this year.
I think WWE has a lot of people who could be in the running.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, definitely. But Cody's a good promo. But
Cody, Drew, Rock,
yes,
CM Punk, those all those guys have been on fire.
It was a big time sell tickets to the big cage match to end this feud promo, man. I mean, it was classic pro wrestling. Punk does that really well. He understands all that, and that's what he wants to come back to do is he wants to do pro wrestling. So, and not sports entertainment stuff. And he's staying true to that. And I'm pumped. I'm fired. I think Bad Blood feels like a giant pay-per-view right now.
This is the match that I've been waiting for ever since this feud happened. I knew they were going to eventually get here. I will say, if I was going to nitpick it, the death stuff was like, okay. I'm not here for killing each other, and
that's like an old Dusty Rhodes would say stuff like that.
I know, but
territory stuff. Yeah.
But they've had multiple opportunities to kill each other. I know. And then we just saw the AEW match where I'm just like, we come on, Bryan Danielson almost got murdered on a pay-per-view. You know what though? You know what I think? You know what I think would be a cute spot is as they're in the Hell in the Cell, Punk goes underneath the ring to pull out whatever weapon is under there, and he grabs a bag of syringes, and he's like, "What the hell?" And he just throws them to the side. No. That would be so funny.
I'm hoping it's not going to be plunder and all this stuff. I hope it's not. Man. Just please make the Hell in the Cell. Make the cell the gimmick. Make the cell the weapon. Make it dangerous again.
I'm trying to remember. My favorite cell match of recent memory was when Cody was hurt and him and Seth had that cell match.
Yeah.
But I remember there being chair shots and everything and in that match too. But it was still dramatic.
The old man was still around then too, as well. So hopefully, and CM Punk, I don't know. Like I enjoyed the leather strap match from the last pay-per-view. I don't. I didn't like the table stuff. Like even though Drew put it right back away or something like that.
They're
just
both downplaying that match though. And I
But-
actually thought they did a great job. Like
No,
Drew's like, oh, you won just because you hit a couple corners, and then CM Punk was like, yeah, I won because I hit a couple corners. It's like,
yeah. No, I think it's great. That's one of the things that's great about that stipulation when you touch all four corners, that you're not pinning the heel. So he has some heat, and he got his heat quickly back, of course, on the following night on Raw, of course. But I thought big time money promo, one of the best of the year in 2024.
All right, number 2 is that there was a couple of things on Raw that I really liked, and then we'll move to some AEW talk with Grand Slam stuff. But number 2, secretly my favorite thing on Raw was the Jey Uso and Bron Breakker promo. Not necessarily because of what they said, but they are the perfect, like, if you think in your head, you think about what a babyface is and what a heel is, they are perfect in those roles. And I give so much credit to Jey Uso. I mean, I was on this show saying stuff like, I'll take my jacket off so that brother could walk over a puddle. I like Jey Uso so much. And he has been able to be a quintessential babyface and stay over like crazy. He's got the yeet thing, which is kind of the new what. Maybe that's partially the strategy, is to make the what go away, is to have the yeet. But just his ability to get that crowd going, he's like a hype man, he's like, if you're at a hip hop show and he's got the hype man next, getting the crowd ready for the rapper to come on stage. That crowd is in a frenzy, and he's got his own cadence. He's not doing the normal promo cadence. He's got a different cadence. He just seems cool.
Yeah, he's working around the yeet. That's what he does, his promos. Yeah.
They even saddled him with not the greatest merch or the greatest, like the coolest sunglasses, but he's just like making it work. And so I just want to give him so much credit. And then on the flip side, this Braun match, because of Braun, this feels bigger than when Uso had the shot at Priest, and Priest was the champion, the world champion. This match actually feels more important than that, because these guys, I feel like they're on all cylinders right now.
And it's not even the pay-per-view match. It's going to be on Raw this week coming up. No, it feels like a giant match. I think Bron Breakker's doing a great job himself. It's like they're perfect rivals for each other. I thought that face-off, the promo back and forth between each other was really good. And they just look like two cool-looking guys that you want to see fight, right? Braun is just, that kid gets it, man. He is going to be such a star. He's going to be such a big babyface when they finally turn him. I thought Raw this past, now granted I did fast forward a couple things, but let's be honest, I did. But I thought it was one of the better Raws in a very long time when it came to like the Punk promo, the Bron Breakker, Braun Strowman angle. I thought was really well done. And then you had Jey Uso coming out to his entrance, and here comes Braun out of the blue. I don't know why I had to wear the hoodie, but out of the blue.
But also, I think a little late. I think he missed his cue there, because poor Jey. So I'm watching this thing, and I'm like, okay,
I didn't see that part, but yeah,
Jey. So what Jey's supposed to do is he's supposed to come in and save Priest and Rhea, and so he kind of comes out and he's like hesitating, and I'm like, oh, why is he hesitating? So he gets all the way to near the front, and then he stops and he kind of looks around.
Well, I think you have to hesitate, because if you don't stop a little bit, that's going to be a really rough bump. If you're not kind of bracing yourself for that bump, because you're taking it on the floor and then into the guardrail, right? So,
but I think he was trying to make sure that I think Braun was just late, and so he knew Braun was late, and so he had to kind of pause a little bit. It just looked funny. Like if you go back and watch it, you'll see it.
Okay.
But
I was like, oh shit.
Otherwise, it was it was cool. But the other thing, and from that show, Bianca Belair and Io was such a fun match.
Yeah, they tore it
And
down. Yeah.
there is a, there's an element to wrestling where a lot of these matches are really serious and, they're grudge matches or whatever. And in this one, you kind of saw them break the fourth wall a little bit because they were having so much fun with each other in the match. And like they would do something, and then Bianca is like, she's just smiling, and then Io's like smiling, and I'm like, okay, they're having a great time.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
they got
I
to
think
put their serious faces back on as well.
but they're both bay faces, right? Now the Io Sky is now bay face, right?
Is she a baby face?
How did they turn them? Because now they're feuding with who was that? Something kind of Pure Diamond Collective, whatever they were called. Zoe, Shayna, and oh God, what's her name?
I don't know. In the promo, Io just had her mean face on the entire time because she was basically telling them that Kairi Sane was not able to have the match because like something was wrong with her eye or whatever. And then Bianca's like, "Well, what about you?" And it seemed like Io was like mad, but they just, for the time that they had one of the more fun wrestling matches I've seen in a long time.
They just had that really great chemistry. I remember they had that match on that one of those PLEs that was really fantastic. Or was it was it WrestleMania? I think it was, right? No,
Might have been.
Yeah. So I think just it's such a good match. I think you can kind of always go back to it when you need to right now. And look, you can do that with the tag titles, right? With the Kubiku Warriors versus Jade and Bianca.
Yeah, and as much as I love Rhea, Bianca's still my favorite. She's so athletic. She's so like her photogenic, and her personality and her athleticism is all blended into this like super athlete that I'm just amazed every time I watch her.
They're rich with talent in the women's division for sure, man. It's crazy.
All right, let's talk about some AEW. We have a Grand Slam card. We'll go through the card, and then we'll kind of talk about how they're getting to this card. So they keep saying that Bryan Danielson may not wrestle.
Brother.
We didn't get the go home promo from Bryan. I mean, maybe it's because how do you get the go home promo? Because his beef is really with Mox. And then he's got this like nagging troll who wants to, an 18-year-old feud. He wants to get it going again. And so I guess I don't know what he would say, but I'm not sure the idea that the guy's not going to wrestle is the best way to build up a match.
Yeah, because what if he doesn't?
I mean, I'm sure he will.
Sure he is. I know.
I'm sure he will. But if you kind of play them against each other, you go, okay, do we sell Bryan's injury? And he cuts no promo to build to this match with Nigel. Or does he cut a go-home promo and say, he wants to beat up Mox, but he's got to take care of Nigel? Whatever it is, you probably sell more tickets with your babyface champion being like the superhero guy rather than the guy who gets almost murdered on TV. So I didn't like it. I think the match is, of course, going to be great. It's going to be great for the live crowd. It's going to be great for AEW fans who were formerly diehard ROH fans. It's like a can't miss match, but how do you get the other people to care about it who maybe didn't even watch ROH or didn't, you didn't even know about that stuff? Like the hardcore audience is going to love it, but there's another part of their audience that I thought that they needed to sell that match a little harder to.
I don't mind the match. I just don't. It's just not the right time for it. After you shut this big angle with Mox and Bryan Danielson, it's just not the time for it. If you wanted, I mean, I know this is something. I know Bryan's supposed to be retiring or taking time off, but or whatever. Maybe I know he's said he doesn't want to retire. He's gonna have his few matches here and there. Next year at Wembley Stadium, that could be one of the special matches that gets.
They're not going to Wembley next year, though.
Or where the fuck they're going? Whether
Texas,
Forbidden Door, or whatever it's called. Wherever they go to.
Yeah, they could do it at Forbidden Door.
Yeah. Okay. Then do that. Then right there. Build up there as a special match, and make it a special attraction, not just this weird. What the hell they're doing? It just
Yeah,
makes no sense booking wise. You can't say, okay, Darby Allin had a title shot at Grand Slam against Bryan Danielson, but Bryan Danielson's hurt. So now he's going to wrestle and put up his title shot against Jon Moxley. But there's a chance Bryan Danielson can wrestle, but he's going to wrestle Nigel. Why would he just wrestle Darby as originally advertised and promoted? Right?
Yeah.
Why would
I have a
Darby
buddy
want to put his title up? It was like, well, if he's ready to wrestle, I'm gonna go for the title. Then if I win it, and when I do win it, I'll wrestle you, Mox, and I'll defend my title against you.
I have a buddy who is way more a WWE fan than an AEW fan, but he likes to travel to wrestling shows.
Mm-hmm.
And he was thinking about traveling to Grand Slam. And then when they changed the main event and they took Darby out of the main event, he's like, I don't want to go now. So,
yeah, I mean, he definitely get a ticket in this show. There's a lot of seats available in this one.
yeah, I think they're
6,000.
They'll probably do about 60% of last year's attendance, which was down from down 50% from the year before or whatever.
We need MJF back soon. He was greatly missed, I thought, in this past Dynamite show. There was a low energy to that show, I thought.
The other thing you mentioned MJF, I thought Swerve, because I was talking to a buddy and we were talking about whether or not Hangman and Swerve was like a true money match for them for that pay-per-view. Like it did, the business did, the ticket sales did increase after that match was finally announced. We'll see about the pay-per-view. It doesn't look like it was that big of a draw for the pay-per-view, but let's say you decided to buy that pay-per-view or you decided to buy a ticket because of that match, Swerve and Hangman. Then you watched Wednesday and you're like, oh, where's Swerve?
Yeah.
And with no explanation, right?
Yeah. You hear on if you're on Twitter, you hear NGF and Swerve Strickler taking time off. But yeah, there's no explanation. That was a big, match for. I didn't like it, but it was a big match, and they should acknowledge it. Where's Swerve at? And at least something. Chris Nana could cut a promo.
Yeah,
right?
and look, these guys can take time off. There's also the other argument that they get more time off. AEW talent gets more time off than anybody in history. But
crazy road schedule that they got.
Not to say that Swerve can't have other things to do, because he definitely can. Yeah. If that was a true money match, and he, maybe so this is what WWE would have done back in the day, and they've done this when like The Rock was going to go off television, right? It's like WrestleMania 17, Austin and The Rock, Austin turns. Well, the next Monday they have that cage match, and then The Rock gets taken out and gets beat up by a bunch of different people, and then that's his goodbye, and we didn't see him again until like, gosh, it was like a year, I think, or maybe it was less than a year, but yeah, I think it was later that fall we saw him again. But like, that is telling the audience, like, you bought the show for this dude and he's going to be on Monday, and then we're going to tell you why he's going to go away. They didn't do that with Swerve. No. So that was an interesting choice. And, MJF as well, though, I guess maybe the pile driver from the middle rope or whatever is supposed to be the reason.
Couldn't believe that happened.
All right. So the other match we mentioned, Moxley and Darby Allin. So this is, I'm not sure who's supposed to win. I've talked to people who think both guys are going to win the match.
And it's going to be like a non-finish that both guys are getting a title shot at the pay-per-view.
Well, I think that's one way to get out of it. But I've had people tell me Darby's going to win because they have to set up the Russell Dream main event, and that's when he's going to beat Bryan. And I've also other people say, how can Mox lose this match? He's like the biggest thing on the whole show right now. So I don't know.
I don't know this finish. They're kind of, I think a lot of this, they're kind of booked themselves in the corner. I don't know if even Darby feels ready for that title match, and they don't want to beat Mox. He just came back, and they're starting this new deal with him. I mean, he can always lose by disqualification and all that, and they can do something like that. But it's very interesting. I mean, I'm curious. I'm really interested in the show next week. I'm I'm always interested to see what AEW is going to do. Sometimes they have some really good stuff. Sometimes it's just so wacky. You're like, what the hell is going on? Like this past show, I was just like banging my head against a wall with all the decisions they're making.
The Bucks against Ospreay and Fletcher. I actually like the main event a good amount. I just like the mix of all 6 of those dudes, and you're seeing Fletcher propped up with some main eventers. You're seeing Takeshita propped up with some main eventers. I think there are matches as you're watching that match, you're thinking like, oh, I can't wait to see this one-on-one. I can't wait to see this one-on-one. I can't wait to see these guys connect or these guys team up or these guys face each other. And I like when wrestling matches are built like that, because you start to, your imagination kind of goes. And, you know, Kyle Fletcher getting the pin on Matt Jackson was cool. Good for him. That's the guy that they need to get behind. So I thought that was a good piece of business. But Ospreay and Fletcher against the Bucks, I don't know. Like, I kind of wonder, do you switch the belts just because, like, to get the crowd pop? But then what do you do with Ospreay and Fletcher? That may be part of the storyline, because
Fletcher turns, that could happen too.
Fletcher turning, or is Callis's group just going baby face?
Oh God. I assume Fletcher is turning. This whole Raw and bring back United Empire over here and all that. But I would say the money's on Fletcher turning, and that's going to be a program, you know, for Wrestle Dream or a big match for Wrestle Dream or something like that. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of the main event. I thought the main event was, well, it was what I expect. I could call every spot they did, you know, okay, here
it was predictable, but it's like the stuff that the fans want to see from the Bucks, right?
I don't know, the ratings, the people are leaving. They didn't finish. They didn't stay for the finish. You know.
No, I mean it was down a little bit, like a tiny bit from the segment before, but not like it didn't die. So I was happy to see that it didn't die. But yeah, it wasn't up from the overrun. Was not up from the quarter hour.
It's never up. And last like a few months now.
According to Big Dave, he says it's up usually 60% of the time or something like that. And I'm going to keep an eye on it, because
keep an eye.
This one was not. This one was slightly down, but it was almost even. It was pretty close to even.
Yeah, it's been down. They've been losing. It hasn't really been helping the quarter hour to get that bump for the rating. You know, so.
But I'm just happy that my Hulu got it this time. I didn't have to go to YouTube. I didn't have to worry about that. So got it this time. It did not get the SmackDown one. I missed the SmackDown ending because the overrun of SmackDown.
No, I had the SmackDown ending on mine, which is interesting.
Yeah,
what do you have? YouTube TV?
No, I have Hulu.
Hulu, it's right. I have Hulu. So we shall see. That's something to keep an eye on. Actually, now I want to see if mine just automatically tapes.
Mariah May against Yuka Sakazaki.
Fuck.
What was that match all about?
What was that promo about on Collision?
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's embarrassing.
That must be her character. It's not.
That's her character. We'll change it up. Well, that's what she does in Japan. Well, it doesn't work here, so we're going to change it up.
I mean, but if she's only here for a little while, you're probably not changing it unless she's going to be here for a long time.
No one cares. No one's going to be all upset in Japan. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like, just why make it so goofy? And then that, not only the promo was goofy, the post match where Mariah attacked Yuka didn't look great. Where Mariah had to stand there and wait for her to super kick her and look like a goofball. Mariah is just, I mean, you felt like this was going to make her a big star. She hasn't, unless it's with Toni Storm. She just
hasn't been as good as I thought it was going to be.
No, because there's no follow up to anything that Toni does, right? So, yeah, I mean, Yuka could have been, when the AEW started, I thought maybe she could have been the Rey Mysterio of the women's division. You know, really did, because she's cues a button and she has a very high flying style of. I just think if you produce her right, I think she could be something. But I think they're just letting her go out and do what she does, and I don't know. They might have a good match. I don't know. We'll see. But I hope they do. But
based on what they did Wednesday, I was not looking forward to this match from the perspective of the booking or the marketing or the promoting. Like, I was like, oh yeah, it'll be fine.
It's a match.
Yeah. But they were trying to make it a little bigger, and I don't think they succeeded in that. Now, this storyline, Claudio, Pac, and Wheeler are defending their trios championships, and it seemed like they were going to defend against Private Party and Commander, but those guys just got beat up, and one of them got their hand broken. So I don't imagine that's going to be the match. Whomever is going to be in that match,
it's Action Andretti and Mark Quinn and Commander.
Top Flight. Can you get?
Oh yeah, Dante. I forgot about those guys
in their pilot uniforms.
Yeah, I saw pictures of that. What the hell's going on with that, man? I don't know who's facing them, but I guess Yuta is supposed to come and defend, right?
Yeah, the storyline here is Yuta is his brain is fried from his friends and not understanding and not being able to believe what just happened with his friends, that he's being forgetful. Is that what that kind of trauma is like? Is you just get forgetful? You call Grand Slam, Wrestle Dream, you forget your belt. Yeah, I don't know. You know what? And still, now I may have missed it on some of the other shows. I know a lot of people thought Wheeler Yuta crying was compelling television. And I was talking to my buddy. Yeah, I was talking to my buddy Draven. And Draven and Draven's a little bit younger than us, but we were talking about it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know why I'm supposed to care about Wheeler. Like, he's just sat there and cried while his guy was just getting murdered. Like, don't you want that guy to fight and go down swinging to save his guy? Like, what does crying do?
And it wasn't like Claudio was holding him in like a vicious.
No, it was like a little brother.
Yeah, he just had his arm out. Like, I do that to my kids. Like, hey, don't go that over there, So I don't know about Yuta. I think he's a good wrestler, but I don't. To me, he's like if this was the old days, he'd probably be a job guy, like a good just hand, a good guy you throw out there to bump around for someone. But I don't see him worth the. I don't know. He doesn't have the look, or he doesn't have the look to be like a top star. In my opinion.
Him and Garcia and Sammy Guevara. When those guys were in the old AEW, like, let's go back 3 years, you could see a possibility of them being main eventers. But then when you hire Adam Copeland and Christian, these giant human beings, they just make those guys look so small.
And they never got bigger either. Like, they never added muscle or added size.
Fletcher did.
Garcia a little bit. Fletcher did. Yeah.
Yeah. Fletcher totally did.
Like
and Takeshita's got great size too. So that's why look, I am not the type of fan who's like, oh, small guys, blah. But when the business is predicated around people who look unique and who look like stars, yeah, some of these smaller guys, unless they project that, like a Bryan Danielson's smaller than anybody, but he's like the best wrestler you ever saw. So he was much bigger than his size. That's the problem. Is Wheeler, Garcia, Guevara, they're kind of stuck in the middle and they don't separate themselves in any way. MJF separated himself because he could just talk. So, Jungle Boy was kind of in the same thing. He's got this different character. I don't know how good it's working. It's different. So it's different enough to where he's not in that same grouping. But yeah, there needs to be some separation, but also at the same time, when you're getting all the WWE cast-offs, it just drops everyone down a peg. And so they're kind of stuck in the same spot. And Mox even said that about poor Private Party. You guys, where have you guys been in the last 5 years, in the same place or whatever he said?
He can say that about a lot of people in that roster.
Yeah. That's I don't know if you want to point that out necessarily, but
yeah.
So Ryan wanted to know how you would do the match placement. Would you have Darby and Mox as the main event, or would you have the Danielson and Nigel match be the main event?
It all depends on the finish of the Darby and Mox match. If you're going to do like a disqualification or some kind of disputed finish, you might want to do it in the beginning and to give that feel good match, but you might want to come back with a big angle at the end, right? With Mox, and you have to do something with Mox at the end if you have Danielson in the main event position. But it all depends what the finish they're going to do. If it's because you don't want to do the big angle. Yeah, I would say Darby and Mox will probably be the opening match, and the mystery of Bryan Danielson might be the final main event.
Play his music like 3 times, and then Tony Khan's
God,
then Tony Khan's like,
no.
wait, when he goes to the I forgot the group that sings Final Countdown. When he goes to them, he's like, wait, that was just one time, right? I don't have to pay for 3 times to run that song 3 different times.
Yeah, I feel like this Mox angle, they could have waited to do this. I don't know when, or maybe done this after Bryan loses the title to Darby, if that's what they're going to do, or, it just seems like it's just a bad timing of doing where they're planning. I don't know what the hell it is.
I mean, I understand the thought process behind, because what happens, and I don't know if this is purposeful or I don't know if this is just because of people being in and out, but if you know that MJF is gone, if you know that Swerve is gone, and you have to give those guys time, you need somebody to kind of replace them in those main event segments. So I think from that perspective, that's probably why the angle with Moxley happened when it did, is because you're like, oh, we got this TV and we just lost 2 of our top guys who we've been booking like crazy in those spots. We got to put someone else in, and Moxley's always kind of that guy who gets the call.
I'm telling Swerve, because that match was so violent, he could take some time off if you sell the injury and explain the injury and why he's taking off. Then I'd be like, I'm sorry, dude. We need, these ratings aren't the best right now. We need all hands on deck, and
he's doing a movie or something?
We can't fly back for Wednesday. I mean,
I know,
what's he doing? Or on a Saturday, like,
come on, John Cena went to friggin' London for one day.
Yeah, I mean, he could. I mean, if Tony's wasting his money flying Ishii and Leo Rush on the private jet, I'm sure MJF can get on the damn private jet, right? Like, come on.
What if Swerve comes back and he's like just holding his mouth and he's just like,
oh God,
wisdom teeth, man.
That match I hated that match. That match was not good.
Cheats.
That match was not good. I think people are just, they remember the violent stuff, but the pacing was kind of slow and plodding. It didn't.
Well,
you know
why though? Is because the fans the fans were not going to get excited until you did something crazy that they hadn't
bad.
seen. Yeah,
that's not good. It's not good when fans don't care who win or lose. They're just there to cheer moves, or stunts. Unlike, I think, Willow and Chris Statlander, I thought I went off the rails at the end. I thought they had more hatred for each other. It felt like a grudge match, but Hangman and Swerve did, I know that was last week. I wasn't on last week, so I didn't talk about it. But yeah, that's it's just that match is. Then they got. I don't know why they gave that thing 4.5 stars. You should have gave that thing a big dud, because now you're gonna have all these dorks trying to do this. They already are doing this. Like that guy with the damn light bulb tool going right through his arm, and some
I didn't see
fucking
that
mad show, whatever he was doing it.
It
went right through his arm. He took a little hip toss into the corner on a light tube and right through his arm. I don't care. I think you deserve for being so stupid.
Oh, that's terrible. All right, in the other match, Hook against Roddy Strong. Hook is Hook, man.
Hook is Hook. Roddy's Roddy. It would be a good match, I think. It's a good match for Roddy, for a Hook. I mean, but Roddy goes, so Hook has to really keep up with that pace.
And Hook only did a squash this week.
He's always doing squashes. I feel like he hasn't improved. He's kind of in that same level, He's a guy that needs to go to WWE. I think they would do. He'd be a guy. If I'm WWE, I'm not looking at, I'm looking at the Guns. I'm looking at Hook, Kyle Fletcher. That's the guys I'm looking at. MJF, of course, but I'm talking about like under the radar kind of people. In a way, I don't know why Tony's not doing much with a lot of those guys. It's just I don't think he's a fan of the Guns. So
it's because he top loaded his roster with all these older dudes.
Yeah,
And so, like, I mean,
Christian.
if you think about it, if you have younger talent, they're probably monetarily, you don't have to pay them as much,
Yeah.
and they're not going to bitch and moan as much as main eventers and master politicians, so they're not as big of a headache, and they're happy to be a part of the thing. But at the same time, those guys could easily get poached as well, because you have the other company telling them you're being underbooked, they don't value you, we see X, Y, and Z, we're going to lay out the red carpet for you.
Or even those guys themselves see that. Like, hey, I'm just, spinning my wheels here, Look at Ethan Page. He knew what was going on there, right? Like, he's like, I got to get out of this thing. And look at him. He was probably going to be on the main roster by WrestleMania, or if not sooner. So, I think, that's what AEW was about, was you had these young guys that you want to start building around, right?
Yep.
And he never got that point. It just kind of like he kind of fell off with that
because they kept going further down the totem pole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why, like, most of that, like I said, Moxley told Private Party, you guys are the same spot there 5 years ago. Well, you're saying that about the whole roster for the most part.
Here's another one. Now, I know you like these guys better than me. Grizzled young veterans. They come in.
Fuck, dude, don't even get me started with that shit.
They're the surprise team, right? They're supposed to get that little surprise bump. And the fans absolutely do not think that they're anything special from the beginning.
They didn't even get a big reaction in their home country.
And then you have them in their very first match on Collision, which you've been building for 2 weeks, including in that tag team battle royal match, or the gauntlet, or whatever it's called. And then they just got beat on the first night.
Yep. No, it was, well, first of all, the whole angle was dumb. Why would you debut and attack the team that lost the tag team title match? Wouldn't you attack the champions because that's what you want?
They even said that they wanted the Bucks. Remember, the Bucks were backstage with them, and they did a little tete-a-tete, and they were saying that they're going to want their belts or whatever.
Well, why don't you go straight to the champions first, and then when you win the belts, maybe you can start finishing your feud with FTR, or do this match with FTR. Yeah, I know they just lost. I watched that match on Collision. They just got the beat clean in the middle, like another team, another group.
That's also kind of why I think Fletcher and Ospreay are winning, because if Tony didn't have that idea, then maybe he would have booked Grizzled Young Veterans a little bit differently. But I don't know. That's just me maybe thinking too hard about something that they're not even thinking that hard about.
I don't think Tony was thinking hard about it. I think, this is what we're gonna do. It's gonna be a 3-week little deal. I don't think he maybe didn't even really think about it. Maybe he just seems like a lot of stuff he kind of just throws it together like last minute, which is, that's what I've heard. A lot of stuff. I mean, they're telling people hey, can you fly out now? I'm like, dude, people are like, what the hell, man? Like, you gotta give me more notice than this than just to hop on a plane. A lot of people,
but come on, that's what Tony does. He just says, fire up the jet. What, you don't have your own private jet?
Yeah, you don't have your own private plane.
That's
where's
like
Miro at? Bring Miro back. We need Miro.
One time, my CEO, he was making a joke about one of our colleagues who just had like 3 kids, and one kid had to go to like soccer practice, the other kid had to go to X, Y, and Z. So he was unavailable at that moment. And my CEO, who had not had kids yet, he's like, but what about the nanny? I'm like, dude, what do you mean the nanny?
I know.
The rich guy brain there. But that, I'm sure there's some of that going on. But that I kind of love the idea of, Tony Khan just going up to guys like, come on, just get on the private plane. Like, well, we need you.
I've heard some pretty wacky stories about the entitled billionaire, or entitled son of a billionaire for sure, getting away with one that thinks he can get away with a lot of stuff. That's what those people do. I guess they just think they can do whatever. They have the money. They'll just pay it off, whatever it is. All
right, real quick. I just wanted to mention the 2 big matches for this upcoming that they're really, really pushing hard for NXT's debut on the CW. Trick and Ethan Page. Mm-hmm. They had Tyrese Halliburton who was on Raw.
I didn't know who
with,
that was. I was
with
like, thank God.
Jalen Brunson a couple of months
Okay.
back when they were at Madison Square Garden. He was there, and then they brought out Punk, and Punk's going to be the special guest referee. So for that Chicago show, their debut on the CW, and then the Roxy and Julia angle. I know it was like super rehearsed, but I thought Roxy's promo was so good. Just her poise in the ring. Now, some of it was, kind of making fun of Punk or whatever. And
of course.
But I just thought, because when she's a babyface, I think she's a really good babyface. But the ability and what they do with a lot of their young talent is then they flip them so that they become more well-rounded. And I thought that her promo was way better than I expected it to be. And her just ability to have poise, say those lines. Again, I'm sure that it was rehearsed all to hell, but I thought she did a really good job, in the middle of the ring with one of the best guys ever on the mic.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I thought it was good. Thought it was good for what it was. Thought Punk was good. He's really good at that role. Really good at as he understands how to be a babyface. I thought that was good. As I watched this show NXT, I'm like, thank God we are getting out of this building.
Well, I mean, they're not going to be out of it every week.
I know. I don't mind it. It's like every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks, but it's these fans, they're the same fans that go every week, right? They're kind of like, I can kind of tell like they're entitled in themselves, so their reaction, like I'm watching that segment with, I thought Trick and Ethan in the first segment were doing a really good job. They're not getting reaction. They do the stupid table spot, which is just dumb. I wish they didn't do that damn table spot.
Yeah, it was silly.
But I'm like, why is this crowd not reacting? Like they're just because they're not. I think it's good to get these out, get these guys and gals out in front of newer fans.
I'll tell you why they didn't react. Because they knew Punk was coming, and so they knew that what these guys were doing wasn't going to matter until Punk showed up. Because they're smart. They're smart for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're a smarter audience, so they're just I don't know. I'm excited that when they're gonna go to Chicago or wherever the hell they're going, Missouri, I'm looking forward to that. And they do some cool things. I kind of like that Randy Orton Javon Evans match.
That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we're gonna see one of the most creative ways that someone get hits with an RKO.
Oh, I don't know, man. I think Evan Bourne's was pretty freaking awesome.
Well, that's the best one of all time.
Yeah. That was. Well, he does that bouncy thing, right? Or something like that. He goes bouncy off the springboard. I'm sure he's going to do that to RKO, but I'm actually more pumped about that match than any match coming up in NXT because the master Randy Orton, working with this young guy who's a tall kid, but very thin kid.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how, jacked up Orton's going to sell for him and how he's going to lead it. And I'm sure he'll make it make sense for sure. But I'm really excited about that.
They had to move that show, right? Because the ticket sales weren't the best.
I think okay. Don't make the mistake Tony's doing, getting these NBA arenas.
Like the San Jose Dynamite,
San Jose Dynamite, or any other show they've been doing lately. Like, go for in San Jose, the event center, right?
Yeah.
Go for the auditorium. I know you don't like that place.
But I don't like that building for TV for
I know,
sure.
but okay, I like the event center. I think San Jose Event Center is perfect, right? Keep it buildings, 4,000, 5,000 and below is what I would do for NXT. Yeah, make it a little more edgier like that, more intimate, but not like intimate and like what they're doing now with the what is called the CWC, but like just open up a bit and brighten things up a bit, and but don't go crazy. And I don't want to see blacked out arenas. Like I watched that Rampage. I threw that on for a few minutes, kind of fast forward that thing. Dude, where did people go? They just darkened everything. You saw like 2 rows ahead of you.
It's kind of interesting. I was thinking about this because Mark Shapiro, who's the TKO president, he was saying that they're going to run less shows overall, that WWE is going to run less shows overall, and almost no house shows. So they're only going to be running essentially TV tapings.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and then I was wondering, it's like, okay, well, what if you're not in like a giant market? Like you just don't get anything. And then I started to wonder, I was like, well, maybe those are the markets that get NXT whenever NXT goes to TV.
Yeah.
Because if the house shows aren't going there, and that's how Vince would reach, certain segment of the fan base. But now, if they're not going there at all, I wonder if that's where NXT goes to these smaller markets where you can do the 5,000 versus the 15,000.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I would do. The 5,000 buildings at NXT. Perfect size. That building we went to, I saw No Mercy. In last year's No Mercy, at that Bakersfield building, I thought was a perfect size for that show. That was a cool little arena. I really like that place a lot. The sight lines are really good.
All right, last thing before we get out of here, and I should probably say this. I don't think I'm doing Wrestling Observer Radio with Dave because I think he's got something else going on later on Friday. So probably not doing that show. I don't know if we're gonna make it up. Just watch his Twitter, I guess. He'll probably have something on Twitter. But the last thing is, I don't know if you've logged into Netflix lately, but
I really don't watch a lot of Netflix, but I know that a couple of shows are coming out. Heels is on there now, and of course that one you're going to talk about now.
So I clicked on Netflix today, and before I even got to my account, they had this like little thing on the bottom right, and it was like Mr. McMahon debuts Wednesday, short series or whatever they called it. Like, oh wow, like they sort of. It's not like I've seen wrestling content on Netflix, so the algorithm is not specifically geared towards me. I don't think. Maybe it's sports stuff that I watch. Maybe they think I'm going to be interested, but so they're promoting that already.
Your apps are talking to each other, Garrett. That's what's going on.
Oh, you think the Peacock?
The Peacock is talking to Netflix, is talking to X, is talking to OnlyFans, is talking to all those the ones you subscribe to.
OnlyFans.
Oh man.
So that's coming. And like you said, Heels, and I know the Heels guys are like, man, if they could do for us like they did with Suits, maybe we actually get a third season going. So that's kind of cool. I think I will try and watch Heels. I don't know when I'll get to it, but I would like to see some of it.
Let me know how it is. It's where I saw that too, and I'm like, but I'm like, I'm so burnt on wrestling,
I know.
It's just like taking a break, and we were kind of lucky. Well, not lucky. Well, for years, Raw was and SmackDown were skippable, and you can kind of pick and choose when you want to watch certain things. But now things are going good for both shows, and you kind of feel like you have to tune in every week now. But I don't want that. I don't want to add another wrestling thing to my plate, especially in this time of the year when I watch a lot of scary movies and stuff leading up to Halloween.
So I wanted to watch the very first episode of Queen of the Villains, which is the dramatic short season series about Dump Matsumoto and the rise of the women's wrestling in Japan. And this show is really interesting. I didn't even know what to expect, really. Now, I will say I watched the English dubbed version, and I didn't realize it as it was happening. I was like, why is everyone speaking English if this is supposed to be Japanese? Like,
I think it automatically defaults us for like a lot of those.
So I'm sure that's what it was. You probably have to pick the Japanese version if you wanted to watch with English subtitles. So the beauty pair is in episode 1. Was it Jackie? Was it Jackie Sato and then I forget their names, but basically the voices, the American English voices that were dubbed over for the beauty pair, Nikki Bella and Alexis.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was wild because they're just speaking English and and you see the mouths move. So, anyways, I didn't know what to expect, and what I saw was pretty good. Like, I want to watch the rest of it, and I know.
What's the storyline? Is it like storyline of them as
Right.
like wrestlers is real and this is a real story? Like is other?
It's not. I didn't get the sense that wrestling was real, but it is Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and their version of kayfabe is a little bit different than ours, right? They try and it's a little more insidery, and the people who promote it act like it's real.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that in there, but I haven't gotten far enough into it to see if anyone says, here's how here's how you blade and all that stuff. I haven't
Yeah, I
gotten
mean,
that far yet.
I'm gonna say is like the Young Rock, but is it like that's what not comedy,
It was
but
treating wrestling as a serious
mm-hmm.
sport, very popular. The beef with the beauty pair was kind of real, and the match that they did not portray the match as um who's going to win, or like the bookers picking the winner,
Mm-hmm.
though there was like an outsider who was like, who's going to win in this match, and the guy who was I don't know if he's like an office guy or whatever, he's like you can't, like you can't call this, like you just have to let them fight, like that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
his mentality. But anyway, I'm sure there's going to be things when it comes to the kayfabe aspect of
Mm-hmm.
wrestling that they're going to try and treat it as a little bit more real.
What was the length of the episodes? Of the 45 minutes
First
or?
episode was an hour. I don't know if the rest of them, but it's only like 5 or 6 episodes though. So
I don't know. They got some stuff like that. I'm really interested in that Penguin series coming up and on Max. It's getting a lot of
who's
rave.
playing the
Colin
Penguin?
Farrell is in that suit,
Oh,
man.
wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. He was great in the Bat. I love the movie The Batman. I thought it was fantastic. So I'm really pumped about this. I always kind of keep up with the Marvel stuff, so I might watch that Agatha show just because it's kind of Halloween vibes. So I'll probably watch that. But like, I'm trying to get away from wrestling just to less.
Aubrey Plaza's in that one, right?
Yes, she is. Yes.
Yeah. So anyways, Netflix is doing a lot of stuff with the wrestling, and Raw's coming. I'm sure all of these things are happening for that reason, because
3-hour SmackDown on USA. Is that I'm reading?
I kind of wonder about that one.
Why are they ribbing us, man? Fuck.
Well, the reason why I wonder about it is because that deal, if that detail was in the deal, we would have known about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is a 3-hour show versus a 2-hour show, and that's the number that they got paid, they're actually getting paid less than people would realize. So I'm kind of wondering. I'm sure Dave will have something in the Observer about it, but if they are actually doing a 3-hour show, I would think that they would get paid more. And
Yeah.
we didn't see anything about monetary. So anyways,
Yeah. Okay.
all right, that is it from here. We'll be back next week, and I don't know, no pay-per-views, no PLEs this week again. So everything's kind of waiting until Bad Blood, right? I mean,
That's
we
October 5th.
got a big Dynamite, so that
Grand
will be
Slam
the
should
show.
be big. Yeah.
But it's
and
not.
then
It's
also,
not a. It's not a weekend pay-per-view. It's just a normal 2-hour.
And then when is that anniversary of AEW?
The following week.
The following week. So that's gonna be be
Ospreay and Ricochet.
Oh, that's gonna be a joy.
That's the match that people.
Did you hear from Dave yet? Did he sweat through his clothes during a 6-man tag of the Dynamite and that's made event? That was like his dream match right there.
He really liked it. I didn't.
I'm sure he
actually really liked Dynamite, and I watched Dynamite, and I was like, I was kind of bored until about the midway through the second hour when Hangman and Jarrett did their thing. I was kind of like, okay, this is picking up a little bit.
You love that Mordos versus Ricochet match?
I mean, if they would have hit the spot they were trying to do on the outside, that would have gone viral. I don't know. Someone might have died though.
My favorite spot was Mordos press slamming Ricochet off the top rope, and seconds later Ricochet's up and running the ropes. I'm like, fuck this shit.
Yeah,
that's the guy. What a botch with Ricochet, in my opinion. How they presented him. Well, we can go that. We'll go into that in a couple weeks, I'm sure.
I mean, it was what we thought though. It's not surprising.
It's not, but it shouldn't be. Shouldn't Tony be learning from these past mistakes?
Or how about the one thing that Ricochet probably lacks is the promos and all he does is cut long promos on Dynamite. That's all he does. He
I know.
just
And the
cuts.
people are saying these are great. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're not great promos.
They're
He doesn't
not
have
great
that voice.
promos. You know why they're not great promos as well, though? It's because Will Ospreay's just smiling the whole time. He's
Yeah.
like, he's just smiling. So,
anyways, we'll see. I'm sure they'll do the same kind of match they had in New Japan and all that kind of stuff. So,
all right, we'll be back next week. So, for John LaRocca, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Thanks to everyone who was watching the live chat. Shouted out Ryan. Ryan hung out with us pretty much the whole night. So, love that. Love folks when we do this, and probably going to go live a little bit more than we thought because it is a lot more fun. And I think when you have an audience, you're a little bit more awake too versus just talking into a recording. But all right, see you when we see you. Peace out.